What's going on YouTube? I got a new guide for you here today. I've made quite a few changes to the Sorcerer I've been working on. Was a triple element, now we're up to a quadruple element, so we're getting insane amounts of damage. I got some help and some tips from a couple people in my chat. Park and Sal, they hung out and we kind of worked through some things, and they gave me some info and some of their findings, and I wanted to kind of share this with you guys. Up until, level 74, 75, this will be the build, and I'll just kind of adjust from here. But I just wanted to make sure I could get this out to you guys. I'll be gone for a few days. I'm going to be at Evo doing some stuff, so be sure to check that out if you guys like fighting games. They're going to announce a couple new, or show off a couple new fighting games, the new Riot one and stuff like that. Mortal Kombat. It'll be sick. But anyways, let's just get right into the build. I want to be as in depth as possible. I've kind of been breezed over some things a little bit more in some of the previous guides, as I wasn't quite sure where I was going to go. I had a basic idea of where I was headed, but now I'm at the point now where this is going to be the build for the most part, and aspects and all that. And I kind of want to explain some of the synergies and why I made some of the decisions that I did, so that you guys can either duplicate this or even maybe make your own version of the build. So let's get right into the skill tree. And then right off the bat, mana's pretty good. So we just have 2 points in Enhanced Firebolt and Firebolt. So that's just, for some burning damage, basic skill, a little bit of mana regen, all that kind of stuff. But we don't need a whole lot of basic skills in this. Our mana regen's really good. And then our main damage dealer is Ice Shards. We have 5 points in it, and then 4 from our gloves. And then we take Enhanced Ice Shards and Destructive for the vulnerability. That just helps us keep vulnerability up more often. And then coming down here, we take 1 into teleport. We have some points from our amulet, so we get an extra 3. And then we come up to shimmering teleport for the damage reduction. That I will say with this build, damage is not super hard to come by. Defense is a little harder to come by, so we take it as often as we can. We take 3 in glass cannon. That gives us more damage, but we take more damage. Still feels pretty good. I like it. The damage increase is worth the damage to our character increase. We take 3 into Elemental Attunement for the critical strikes. Have a chance to reset the cooldown of your defensive skills. This is really nice. This helps us with our Frost Nova and all that. Which then takes us to Frost Nova. We have 3 points allocated, and then 3 from our amulet. And then we come down to Frost Nova generates 4 mana per enemy hit. This will give you a huge chunk when you freeze whole packs of mana and helps us with sustain. Precision magic, lucky hit chance. We use a decent amount of lucky hits, so we take all 3 of those. 1 in a line of the elements, but mainly just to get us to mana shield, which we take 3 for the damage reduction. We spend a lot of mana, so this is up often. And then protection, giving us the barrier. Obviously, sorcerer is real big on barrier. We take 1 into blizzard, and then up to wizard's blizzard. And this just helps with chill and some things like that, some crowd control, stuff like that, a little bit of extra damage. And then here, this is one of our big damage. Well, Inner Flames isn't, but we take 1 into Inner Flames, and then we take 3 into Devouring Blaze. And the reason why we do that is you get the big crit strike to burning enemies. So not only can you apply burning here, but we also use Firebolt's enchantment, right? So direct damage from skills applies an additional 1300 burning damage. We don't necessarily care about the damage itself. We just want enemies to be burning. And this now, because it's direct damage from skill, so any skill will cause an enemy to burn. So and this is actually something that one of my guys, Park from the chat, was explaining to me today. I didn't even click that it's direct damage from skills. I just kind of assumed it was from fire skills that were adding more burning damage, but this applies to all skills, cold or lightning. So this is really, really nice in combination with Devouring Blaze. It's a big damage boost. Then we come down to, we take all of the cold nodes, we completely fill that out. We have a nice amulet that has +3 to permafrost on it as well, so that boosts our damage to elites by quite a lot. But this is a big damage tree right here in these small passives. Then next, Deep Freeze. This is just a defensive capability, kind of a panic button. You get stuck in a big pack or something, and you've already used your teleport. Then this will kind of help you escape that. And then we take 3 into Firing Surge, and this is just killing a burning enemy increases your mana regeneration. So this is really nice for mana regen. And then down here, Avalanche, this gives us a chance for a free cast of either Blizzard or Ice Shards, and then that will have an increased 40% increased damage. So this is really nice for mana, and then also just you get the big damage boost too when that procs. As far as Paragon goes, as of now, we take in our first tree, we take Elementalist, and then obviously in range, you get a bonus. This I might change, but again, one of the reasons why I like it and why it feels really good is for the additional bonus of dealing fire, cold, or lightning. Increases damage you deal to them by 5% for up to 10 seconds. So that's up to 15% damage increase. So that's really nice. The primary stat on it isn't super huge. We get an extra 9% or whatever it is, which is nice. But that 15% times increase is massive. So we like that. And that stacks with our Malignant Hearts, which we'll get into. Our next tree, or next board, we take Frigid Fate. Cold damage to enemies increases your lucky hit chance. Again, we use a lot of lucky hits, so it feels pretty good. As far as Glyph, we take Destruction. We are not taking advantage of the bonus yet, but now that it's fully leveled, I'm going to spec my next couple points into it to get the bonus, which will be really, really nice. And we come down, we take a lot of these nodes because it's all vulnerability and there's lucky hit on this one and all that kind of stuff. So then our third board we take, which at the end of the day, I think we'll probably only end up taking 5 boards with this and really filling out the ones that we use more than I have in the past where I try to use 6 boards, 6 glyphs. But that could change. As of right now, I'm thinking this will be a 5 board build though. Which one I'll probably come off from here and then the other one here, depending on what this glyph looks like when it's all filled out. And obviously this is exploit for the vulnerability damage. It's a lot harder to come by now after all the nerfs and changes. So we want to take it here. And then, we have damage to chilled enemies, damage reduction from chilled enemies. This one's kind of whatever, but it just gets us over to here to the 20% cold damage and chill application, which is really nice. And, we'll eventually take this. And then, like I said, we'll branch off a board here and then a board here. If it does work out that, it's better to add another glyph and then maybe lose some of this stuff, we'll add it here. So it'll be kind of like a tree. So that's the Paragon board. Let's get right into the gear and the aspects. So for helmet, this is a really nice helmet. This is kind of exactly what I want. Basic attack speed, which that one could kind of go now that I'm using my basic skill a lot less. That could be something else. Armor might be really good. But cooldown reduction, life on kill, max life, all really, really nice. And then some other defensive stat would probably be better than basic skill. And then aspect wise, Frost Nova gains an additional charge, but cooldown is increased by 30%. We have so many things on our build that reset the cooldown of our Frost Nova that the cooldown increase isn't really felt. But yeah, that works out really nice having that additional charge. On to the next one. Aspect-wise, you take 23% less damage, crowd control, or vulnerable. Typically, enemies are at least one of those things. Oftentimes, they're both. So this damage reduction is up fairly often. And then as far as rolls, damage reduction is really nice. We have a cold damage and a life. That last roll, I think I would prefer as an armor roll. So I will try to replace that at some point. But that works for now because typically we're far away from enemies, so 18.9% damage from them, a reduction from them is good and helpful. Gloves, pretty standard. 4 into our ice shards, crit strike chance, attack speed. Those are really what you want. For your force stat, all stats, dex, int, a defensive, whatever you're feeling could be good. But the 3 you want are the ice shards, the crit strike chance, and the attack speed as high rolled as possible. And then aspect you deal, this is just the one you get from the dungeon, 25% more damage to immobilized, stun, or frozen. We have enemies frozen a lot, so we get this damage increase a lot. And then on our pants, we have life, int, dex, and damage reduction. The life and the damage reduction is really what I like. I would again like to replace that dex with an armor roll. That's armor is pretty hard to come by, so armor and damage reduction on your gear is really important for sorcerer. And then we have the 0.45 armor increase up to 27%, which fills up pretty fast. So that's a nice defensive aspect. We have Isu's Heirloom on our boots, and this is for that in-streak crit strike chance based on your movement speed bonus. So 29% is pretty nice. If you look here, our movement speed is 141%. We have it on our boots and our amulet. So 29% of 141, that's what, say 30%, round up. 15. So about what, an added 41% crit strike chance on top of our natural crit strike chance is 31. So we're up at 75-80% crit strike chance, which is really high and feels good. So that's what we use there. For our weapon, we're using a wand for the lucky hit chance. And then pretty standard on the weapon, your int is good, all stats is good, crit strike damage, vulnerability damage. I think perfect would be intelligence, all stats, vuln, crit strike damage. That would be the ideal in my eyes. And then we have for our aspect, ice shards, pierce 4, dealing less damage, but this really helps with clear and just kind of freezing enemies that are in the back and stuff like that, and adding chill and all that. So this is really nice for clear speed. Doesn't necessarily affect bosses too much, but for dungeon running, it feels good. And then again, we don't want to use the two-handed. We like the two aspects. And so this is deal increased damage while you have a barrier active. And then as far as rolls, cooldown reduction, crit strike chance, lucky hit chance. Again, the basic skill attack speed, I was adding that in early. I may end up swapping that out for something else, maybe a damage or a damage reduction or a lucky hit even maybe. But the other three rolls you definitely want: cooldown reduction, crit strike chance, lucky hit chance. And then we went over the aspects. So then here, these are where the rings and our jewelry is where a lot of the damage and the Malignant Hearts come into play. So we'll start with the ring. Obviously, crit strike chance you want, lucky hit chance, vulnerability, and then cold damage or critical strike damage or something like that would be good. But otherwise, this is a really nice ring. This is kind of what I was looking for. The only thing I might do is change the cold damage for crit strike damage, just because again, it's just so much harder to come by now that they nerfed the rolls. And then as far as aspects, restore 3 of your primary resource when you crowd control an enemy. We crowd control an enemy with pretty much everything we hit them with, unless they're unstoppable. So this really helps with mana sustain. And then for the Malignant Heart, this is one of our really, really big damage modifiers. So 12% increased damage for up to 10 seconds per unique element that we use. And this is another thing I'll explain. Sal from my chat kind of broke down for me today that made a huge damage that synergizes really nice with this Malignant Heart. Every 5 seconds while above 60% life, core skills cost life. So now, with this Malignant Heart, we have fire, lightning, and cold, right? So we have fire from our burning enemies on hit, and also our basic skill with fire arrow or flame arrow, excuse me. And then we have teleport for our lightning. So you just have to teleport once, and so long as you're doing damage with other things, it will keep it alive for the 10 seconds. So that's where we get our lightning. And now what's crazy is we get a 4th element from this Malignant Heart. So when you do damage to yourself, it is considered shadow damage, which also procs as a 12% damage increase. So so now we're using 4 elements and we're getting 4 times 12. So we're getting 48% times increased damage for 10 seconds with this Malignant Heart. Now this Malignant Heart also helps us maintain our mana a little bit, because sometimes our skill costs life instead of mana. So it's kind of like Life Tap and Path of Exile or something like that. But because it does shadow damage, it increases this Malignant Heart's damage. So it's absolutely bonkers, and the damage feels really, really good. And then lastly, our last Malignant Heart is 70% increase critical strike damage. So, but then your non-crit strikes do 27% less damage. So, because we're critting 75 to 80% of the time, we crit so often that we don't see that damage decrease very often. And it's just a crazy synergy with these three, and the damage feels absolutely amazing. I've been running, tier 32, 33 nightmare dungeons with minimal deaths as a level, 72, 73, 74. So, 13, 14 levels above me at times on these monsters. And it absolutely just, it feels great. Like this build has been so much fun, and the freeze really helps with defensive stuff. So you don't notice your lower armor than some of the other classes, and this will come up as I start getting some better rolls and we start min-maxing some of these items. But with these three Malignant Hearts and the freeze that we do, it feels really, really good. So, but then again, just real quick to go over the aspect here, this is using a cooldown, restores 15 mana, just flat. So we use Frost Nova a lot, which has a cooldown. So this procs a lot. I had 25 max roll on my last ring, and you do feel that 10 mana. This one is just from the aspect you can craft from the dungeon, so it's lowest roll. But as if you get a higher roll on this, you can really feel the difference. And then again, as far as rolls, it's very similar. Cold damage, crit strike chance, vulnerable. If I could replace that damage to close with either lucky hit or crit strike damage, that would be ideal. And then amulet, this is actually a really nice amulet. We've got a lot of movement speed, which then again benefits our crit here. Cooldown reduction, and then +3 to permafrost, +3 to all defensive, and then taking direct damage has a 3% chance to reset the cooldown of one of your defensive skills. So again, this is another one you can craft from a dungeon, but I recently I changed my amulet over, and I had a max roll on this, and you do feel the difference. So again, getting a max roll on this aspect you do feel it, and you do see it basically keeps you have uptime on at least one Ice Nova all the time, so you're able to use it pretty nonstop. But that's the basic gear, guys. Again, these Malignant Hearts really, really play nice with each other, and the fact now that I've got that fourth element, again, thanks Sal for the data, doing self-inflicted shadow damage also adds to this, which is just fantastic. And it feels great. I've had a lot of fun. I mean, this, as far as fun factor, this one's right up there with the Rogue, as far as just exploding screens and running around, and it feels very, very satisfying to freeze a pack and then just explode them, right? And then kind of the last thing we'll get into is the enchantments here. So we use ice shards, which just basically shoots ice shards out at frozen enemies. Enemies are frozen so often that this really helps with clear speed. And then again, we're using the firebolt enchantment for direct damage, applies the burning, so that gives us our chance to do more crit strike damage to burning enemies. So the burn itself doesn't really do much damage, but the increased crit strike damage does a lot. So it feels really, really good. So that's where we're at now, guys. Like I said, I'm going out of town for a few days, so I won't be around. I wanted to get this to you so you could kind of get an update, and I wanted to be a little more in depth than I have been in some of the previous ones, just because I was kind of still figuring it out and kind of working with you guys to figure out what we were going to do here. But this feels like it. This feels like, I think any changes that I make to this as I try to level to 100 will be very minimal. I think I've tried a lot of different aspects. I've tried a lot of different things. One thing I will say, one of the aspects that I kind of liked for clear speed was the one that causes crowd control elements to have, I think it's up to a 50% chance to spread to other enemies. This, I mean, you'll just chain freezes across the screen. It feels really, really good for clear. It's just not super beneficial for bossing or anything like that. It just kind of helps with clear speed, but something to think about if you guys are, trying to make this as like a farming build, and you're just going to be farming up nightmare dungeons. You don't necessarily care about single target DPS. That aspect feels really nice. So that's it, guys. If you have any questions, or again, if you found anything that you really like, that you think would be helpful, leave it in the comments, leave a note, and let me know what you think. Or maybe if you're doing something different that you found works or synergizes a little better, or whatever the case is, please let me know. I've been having a lot of fun, like working with you guys to try to figure out what the best play is. And there's a lot of I play this game a lot, but a lot of you guys have more info than I do and have been playing Diablo a lot longer. From D2 and stuff. I'm a Path of Exile player. I played some D3 and made 3 or 4 builds in D3, but for the most part, this is the first one that I've gone really, really hard on. So, yeah, let me know, guys. I really appreciate all your comments and your support. It's been a blast. I just I make these videos for fun. I have a different job. Like I said, I'll be going to Evo. Pretty excited about it, to do some work over there. But yeah, guys, that's it. Again, I really appreciate all the support. It means more than you know. Leave a like, subscribe, do all that kind of stuff if you want more updates. And I will give you guys another update to this build in another 10 or 15 levels, 85 to 90, something like that. Once it's I've locked in my gear and min maxed a little bit better and stuff like that. But I'm really happy with the direction of this. It feels really, really strong. And I know that there's more as of now. There's more buffs coming in for Sorcerer. So by the end of all that, I think this thing's going to just be absolutely ridiculous, and it's very, very fun. So take a look, guys, and thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one. All right, peace out.